screen. Chop. Do you see it? Do you see my screen? Okay,
yes,
great.
we do see it.
Perfect. So thank you first all for being with us today for this training. It's quite impressive because I knew some of your names and it's like making me, oh God, very, very professional and very committed audience. So please bear with me if I'm not up to your level. I just want to share a little bit of my knowledge with you. Very quickly, myself, who I am. My name is Ouafa Belgacem. I'm a Tunisian French, let's say, cultural worker. I am most known for being the funders of CFW and the Cultural Creative Enterprises Index. CFW is an enterprise that is based in Tunisia, but it works now on MENA and the African continent. We are specialized in supporting and working on how to make cultural creative actors in the continent access the resources they need to achieve their goals. And we do that through different services. It ranges from the design of the project to the proposal writing, but everything related to resources mobilization and financing cultural creative industries in the continent. The index is one of our tools we have created because we clearly lack data on cultural entrepreneurship and think where to allow me to do properly my work as CFW in recruiting and influencing and bringing donors to invest in the sector. We don't look credible because we don't have data on who we do. So you can reach me anytime on info on my email. Something is wrong with the email. The E is missing. So culturefundingwatch.com. And you can also see our platform called culturefundingwatch.com, where we publish, actually we map and publish all funding area and opportunities for the cultural creative sector in the MENA region and Africa. Why we are here today? Just one thing, given the little time, I may be speaking very quickly, so please don't hesitate to raise hands and stop me when I use a lot of jargon. I have this bias. But also you can maybe if you need to ask question and you feel it can wait later, then just write it on the chat. So I'll have a look at it later. So my presentation today is really about to help the shift in the mind of those who don't have it now. Maybe you already have it, but at least in that case, I'll be sharing with you what's the process to move from understanding on fundraising to resource mobilization. And difference is huge because the difference relates to sustainability. That's what makes an organization sustainable or not, is whether how you design or you strategize for fundraising or you strategize for mobilizing resources. And I will share with you some of the hints or the tools that we as CFW has developed and would like to share or test with you guys. So far so good. Is my very sharp and Arabic accent for English is understandable, and I'm not speaking too fast? Okay, thanks, Nike. Okay, sorry, I am moving, it's slow. So, come on, yeah. So, fundraising. The fundraising is quite known now. Everybody knows what is it. It's fund and raising funds. But I want you to take you in the journey, how it was born and how we work on it, because that's my profession over the last 15 years. I worked as a professional fundraiser for different organizations, for donors, etc. And then at the beginning, our profession was really focused on monetary income, like cash income, how we raise cash for a project or an organization or events or even enterprises. Some does it for private sector from the start. And then meaning that when we focus mainly on monetary income, most of our work or the tool we use to access those financial resources are focusing on grants. So in the past, when I was a fundraiser, my mind was my job is to access grants. is to raise grants, and thus the tool that I use in my time was dedicated 90% to writing proposals and concepts notes. Then the profession has evolved because the resources has evolved, because the ecosystem in terms of funders and financier has evolved, because the tools had developed and the trend among the donor has changed. Then we move to talk more and more. So today, if I have to define my work on myself, I would say I'm a resources mobilization specialist, because we have widened our thinking and saying, okay, what as an organization or an enterprise or even an individual freelance artist or in any other field actually, what I may need, it's more than the cash. I may need different resources, kind of in kind. That's a resource. Instead of getting the money to buy the bus for the school you want to support, then you can have someone who just give you the bus directly. We call it in-kind contribution. But then realize that we need technical assistance skills. And more lately, this became really very accurate in terms of diversifying what we mean by resource. So our interest has moved from just focus on grants, then to other resources. We consider in its wider range that a grant is one thing we work on now, but we work on, I will tell you a little bit later about the EGR. This is a concept that CFW is working on. But there is what we call income generating activities. That's a way to have resource. We have what we call technical assistance programs, because this is a tool also to channel support that is provided by different stakeholders around you. There are the prices. Sorry, I wrote it in French, I didn't translate. Le prix. So there is the prices and the awards. There are the venture capital, and there are the loans. This is some among many other. The incubation, for example, now with this new trend about supporting entrepreneurship, including cultural creative sector entrepreneurship. And that for me now, as a resource mobilization specialist, it's a resource and I have to have it in my radar, because there are some things that you need, and sometimes it's even smarter to have them, for example, as TA, so technical assistant, rather than having the cash. So that means now I don't spend 80% of my time working on grants or proposal writing. I work on all of those tools. And I don't only use proposal writing, I use proposal, but I use a service. I develop services that I can offer and that will generate resource for me as an NGO even, you know, that you can propose services, be service provider. And if you look, for example, now the tendency, if you look at very quickly on the International Statistics and Aid channel, and you would see there is more and more transfer moving from channeling international aid or cooperation resources through the grants towards the tenders. So there are more and more tenders, and then you can, you know, that even if you are an NGO, you can apply and you are eligible to respond to a tender if, of course, it's aligned with the mission and the service and the activities you are focusing on. So, and then, for example, people don't think of rewards as a resource. That's something that think about it later, and not even when we think about it, most of the time, the thinking behind targeting having a prize or an award is much more about reconnaissance, like you are acknowledged and the people accept your knowledge and expertise. However, as a resource mobilization, for me, that's a financial resource that I have to plan. It's part of my resource mobilization strategy, and actually, I actively target prices. So why? Why the prices for me? If I was when in CFW, when we advise our clients, when they ask us to support them in resource mobilization work, we tell them you work on prices because they are part of a bigger category of resources that it's called unrestricted. I'm sure that many of you are familiar about these two concepts. There are very roughly two big types of resources: restricted and unrestricted. Restricted, actually, there is not unrestricted, but there is not such a thing that unrestricted. It was a very extreme, rare cases. But let's say only 10% restricted and 90% restricted resources. So the restricted have restriction, whether it's on time, on budget, on flexibility, news, where the unrestricted are the resources that you could use in total freedom. You could invest in human resources, you could invest in your staff capacity building. Those very important. Why? Because the unrestricted is the only resource that, given the nature and how the grants or other financial resources or resources put at your disposal are, how does it work today? The strategic and the most important activity that are, we will see later, the foundation for your sustainability are 99% not interesting for your standard donor. So you would need unrestricted resources to invest, because you need to build your capacity. Sometimes you need to position, or sometimes you need to use them as leverage, for example, in the case when you have co-financing. So for your sustainability, having unrestricted resources is mandatory. It's like a fundamental thing that we need to work on. Sorry, I can't see the comments if you are posting comments. So if it's an urgent question, please raise your hand, and I will, Nika, if you can help, because also I can't see all the profiles. So if you see a hand raised, please let me know. So these are the different resources there you need to work on. So your sustainability is depending on your capacity to mix all those resources. So this is the difference between when you give a resource mobilization support, or you are a resource mobilization thinker or staff within your organization. Your role will be not to hunt grants and get financial resources. Your target for sustainability will be to have this graph that will be to mix and put the seeds, or put the mechanism and the tools within your ways of working, within your organization, to mix as much as you can those resources. And we'll see later, there are different, I would say, it's not only about mixing, it's also about proportionality. So for my definition to sustainability, or we call it a healthy funding portfolio, between brackets, sorry, I forgot to put the funding, because I'm trying to get out more and more from using that word. So a healthy funding portfolio must include all these resources in a proportionality that guarantee the autonomy and the independence of your organization. Meaning that it's not enough to have this different color, so show that you're diversifying your resources, but the proportionality matter. Why? Because you may have, if you look at your statistic or your strategy, and you found yourself 90% of your resources are still within one type of resource, and you have all others, but they are only 1%, 1%, you're still grant related. If also your portfolio or your resources are still depending also on one or two donor or type of donor, that's also, it's not sustainable. Now, some would say, yeah, it's easy to say, because in our different ecosystems, we're in Africa, and we all face this scarcity or rarity of resources. It's not, the thing is, it's not a bad thing when you start that your camembert here, your graph here is only one color. We all start there. When you start, when it's a problem, is when you can't, over a certain period of time, move from the situation A, where your graph is basically one donor, one type of resource, to this graph. And there, you will not be sustainable no matter what you do. So your work during your first like existence, or your beginning and your start, should be, yes, you raise resources. I understand. We all need, give me the fund now to start. I understand. I don't have all those skills. I am maybe one or two people doing all of it. I might say for CFW, we started like that. So it's okay to start in like a dependency situation, but you have from the start. And the mistake that lots of people do, and then when they come to see us as CFW, is when it's basically too late to gain sustainability. I'll tell you about what we call it, the mission impossible, but when it comes to us. Before I move to that, I would like to talk to you about the TA. technical assistance, just to advocate how sometimes it's better not to go for grants. I give you an example. The technical assistance, I think you're all familiar. What does it mean? It's instead of giving you money, some donor offer you to bring you the skill or the product or the thing that you need through either their own expert or partners. To make it simple, like for example, instead of applying for the, I don't know, the Fondation, Ford Foundation, to have a grant to develop a platform for your project or your organization or your enterprise. First, the standard thinking is write a proposal, submit it to Ford Foundation, or go and see a sponsor, get the money, and then write the TOR, hire the consultant, follow up with them, pay the check, have all these things. It's a lot. And then after the grant, you have to write the report, But there are support mechanisms like technical assistance. It's that you don't ask for the money. They tell you, what do you want? You tell them, I want this platform with those specificities. Like, okay, write the TOR, detail what exactly you want, submit it to us. We have our database, or we know we have a partner service provider that we will hire. We will pay instead that money goes through you. So what do you gain from a TA contract rather than a grant? The hustle, the time, writing, connecting, searching for the right person, paying, all those stuff. And especially when you are an enterprise, even tax, you save taxes because the money will not go through your bank account. And if you are an NGO, also both actually, save you the hassle of writing the report, the grant closure, all this, no checks, no invoices. You just give what you want and you get it. So personally, I sometimes at the start with the client with CFW, we ask them to look for TAs. We actually, even within the context, advocate for more TA because it's less paper hassle for entrepreneurs or organization. So I think many of you are familiar with the project cycle, project management cycle thing. Can you guys tell me where does the resource mobilization work, like my input as, for example, the resource mobilization expert within your team? For example, you are now designing a project or defining things. Where do you seek my input? At the identification and implementation, at evaluation, or at the exit or the redesign stage? Can you guys just in the comments write the numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4? I see 1
and 3.
Yeah, I see. Sorry?
1 and 3. Oh, and 2 as well, but a lot of 1s.
Yes, and that's the right answer. Actually, it's at identification. However, but why? Can you tell me, guys, why those who said identification? So what's the role at that level or at that stage? What will be my work? So for me, it's identify. You mean, what do you understand by identification? Meaning identifying the donors? You can talk. I mean, if someone wants to talk, can unmute him or herself and tell us what is the type of input there that a resource mobilization should bring within your team. No one? Don't be scared. Okay. The usual thinking or reflection is, at this stage, it's more about the fundraiser or the resource mobilization expert looking for what the donor want, what exists in the in your ecosystem, and then it's not right, but it's not completely wrong. At this stage of the identification of problem solving and project design, The role of resource mobilization team member, it's not try to find where the donor fits or what to write to fit within the donor. Then you become what we call in our jargon a donor-driven organization or an enterprise, and that's really bad because that's again against sustainability, because you transform yourself into a service provider, and then a service provider is very easily expendable and replaceable, and the newcomer, new service provider, cheaper, which is happening actually now because we're killing each other, who's offering less to win the work. Who's writing on my board? Ah, okay. Who's proposing less, and then it's quality of project, it's respect, actually, the valuing what we do going down and down. At the level of identification, the role of the resource mobilization expert is to give you an idea about what is available in the ecosystem to help you not align to what they want, rather than define properly the scope and the ambition of what you want to do. Example, you want to work on girls' education. You start designing the problems, you're doing your usual work, problem tree, or needs, or customer behavior, whatever you call it. And then in parallel, your resource mobilization person should be looking at the same time within your ecosystem, what are the most likely resources that would be available or potential partners, resources partner that you could work with. And we'll come to tell you, okay, guys, that's important because it is part of your mission and your vision and part of what you were supposed to be doing. Now, nobody is interested in that. The answer is not of your resource mobilization person. It's not, okay, let's forget about it. Let's work on migration. Everybody likes migration. There's a lot of money in migration now. It's don't abandon, but scale it down. And then you know what? There are only one or two, meaning that our strategy or our project, instead of thinking about doing something that big that will target, I don't know, 15 towns in your country, have, I don't know, 50,000 activities, then scale down to the probability of resources that might be available or that your resource mobilization person will help you or your team has the chance to access. So the role of resource mobilization here at stage 1 is scope advising. At stage 2, there you have the person that comes the skills of alignment to donor, because when you have identified your donor, or here, and also at the stage 2 is where he or she will be designing your resource mobilization strategy. And there, he or she is supposed to be doing, it's so slow this thing, back to the camembert. It's how you, after mapping what exists around you and what you can access, then how can we mix these two? What strategy you would put in place to slowly you will be moving from only one donor or one resources to access what you want to do. It's very slow. I don't know. It's stuck. I can't move my slide. Okay, I will stop sharing and relaunch it again. Maybe this is the reason. Where are we? Yeah. Is it back?
Yes.
Okay, but it's still not. I don't know. Ah, maybe. Attends, des fois j'ai ce souci. Yes. So here. And before we move further, because a lot of people, when you come to see us, yeah, fundraising or resource mobilization, CFW, yeah, you write in anything and you know how to write things and you know how to craft. Your sustainability, it's not about your capacity to win proposal. There are ethics and there are basics that you need to adhere with if you want to reach sustainability. Because raising money, lots of money at the beginning, if you're a little bit good, you will have. But then being sustainable, this is one of the pillars. The transparency is really important, and that's everybody agree on that. How you get your money, where is it coming from, because you're serving a community. The second and most important is the accountability. And I wanted to talk about accountability because there is a misunderstanding of what community or what community you are accountable for. People usually, when you talk of accountability, you say donor, okay, you got your money, or funders, doesn't matter, or investors. Of course, you're using their money, you're expected to tell them what you have done with their money. But my understanding and my experience in the development in general, your sustainability lies with your accountability to your beneficiaries, like the people on the name of whom you've raised those resources. Your legitimacy comes from there. So if you want to be sustainable, if your community does not feel you legitimate to represent them and to raise resources to do things for them or with them, you are not sustainable. You will not last. And finally, this is an advice. When it comes, if you want to call professional resource mobilization people, we have ethics, the real professionals, not proposal writer, because there is a difference between resource mobilization people as a professional and between, sorry, I'm speaking Arabic now, and between the resource mobilizations expert. We are completely forbidden by an international ethic for professional fundraiser to be paid in percentage. So be careful when you work with people who accept percentage. Be very looking. Why? Because in this fact, there is conflict of interest between your interest and your service provider, in this case, interest. Because when my interest is about just when I am paid in percentage, so it means for me, the more I push you to raise resources or money, the more I get money from it. And in this case, I may push you to take n'importe quoi. I may push you to be against your how to say, ethics, against about your values. I may also push you against even your capacity to handle that. So a real resource mobilization expert is someone who sometimes, and my experience even with our client now, many cases we prevent them ourselves from going to some resources, because it's what we call it the poisoning resources, and it will maybe give them something now, but the harm on the long term is very high. So now the success factor for resource mobilization, those are the foundation. Credibility, as I said, for your community, for your donor, for everyone. You get your credibility through your project. Whatever you want to do, your idea, your project, your business should be really good quality, rooted in what you do, and how to say, convincing. The expertise you have at a certain, and that's something we will see later also about the sustainability. Jumping from one thing and another, you can't be sustainable. Meaning that today you work, I don't know, I'm a caricature now, I'm just caricaturizing it, but today you work on dance, tomorrow you work in theater, after tomorrow you work in gaming, or you won't be able to be sustainable if you don't take time to build expertise, because your legitimacy and the credibility is also it's fed from your knowledge and expertise and the feasibility of whatever you want to do. You could have a very good project, you have the expertise, but you dream too much. I know I shouldn't be saying that to creatives like you, but when it comes to implementation of things, sometimes the feasibility, give it a thought. I'm not asking you to be very pragmatic. I'm biased, I'm no artist like you, but give it a thought. Planification, it's really, I put it in red because this is what I was saying earlier about the mission impossible. Sustainability is not something you start thinking of when all your resources are done, when you have already knocked all the donors of the donor, so they know you, they gave you each of them over the last 10 years non-stop, and then at a certain point it's them telling you, okay guys, now it's enough. There are many others that needs as much help as you need, that newcomers, the new generation, and then people start saying, I need resources. That's for CFW, we call it the syndrome of mission impossible. I could be Einstein in resource mobilization. I can't. I really, honestly, we won't be able to really help you there. It will be very, the likeliness would really be very short, very small. And the third, for me, pillar is the diversification. But as I said, diversification, it's not jumping from something to another. The diversification is what you offer, but you are still around your core competency, core knowledge, or core branding. But then you diversify what you offer either as an enterprise or to as an actor, NGO or collective to your community, whether a community of practice or the community in its larger sense. Now, after the foundation, there are the prerequisites. Very terre-à-terre, like we say in French. It's really very administrative. But I think why I focused on this in this presentation, because I anticipated, I know you all are creatives, so I am not going to give lessons or experience on how to design and like the creativity of the project. But I think maybe the things that you will not be thinking of like systematically would be this kind of admin, very boring part of the resource mobilization, and they are often actually overlooked. So the prerequisites, manual of procedures and policies. These are basic documents. You need them to be there. I can give you tips to how to get them easily for free with a little effort. There is now, especially now, there are lots of capacity building support program for NGOs in general. In every single African country, there is an INGO or a cooperation body is helping civil society in this country, which is being helped over the last 30 years and still didn't get it, to organize their structural level. And these programs have definitely one of their things, because this is standard thing. Develop it is what we call it simplified manual procedure, things that toolbox ready that they can give. So it's really easy. You just knock on the door on these people, even if it's not written on their websites or in what they do, just knock the door. Some people like Oxfam, they do it. Just knock on the door and say, hey, I'm an NGO, I'm something, I need help. Do you have a simplified manual procedure that I can use and customize to my organization? They would be more than happy to share it with you, because that's part of their mission and their work. As we said it earlier, the accountability. And the accountability, please, to everybody, the public, the private, the people, everyone you work with. You have the ethics. Ethics, as I said earlier about, that was earlier for the fundraising, but now here your own ethics. You have to be consistent in terms of really be careful with whom you work. Don't accept anybody's money, especially when it could represent a risk to your brand. For example, you can't be an NGO or a collective or an artist. Sorry, there was someone asking about what is a simplified. The manual of procedure, the real one, you know, they're very complicated. It talks about your HR recruitment, how, who's responsible for it. When you do a sign-off, for example, when you apply for a proposal, there is a procedures. There is the decision to be made, for example, in the board of an NGO, and then who decides that the proposal is good enough to go. So these are processes. They have to be written. It's a huge thing. When you are a small organization or a small collective or a startup that you just start, you don't need these very complicated things. So these people like Oxfam has used it as an example, their own procedure, but simplify it to the reality of small and mid-sized actors, where regardless of their legal status. So this is what they do using that. So the ethics, it's very important not to take the money of anybody. You can't be an NGO working on l'écologie, how to say, eco-friendly and defending the ecology, and then getting money from an oil company. You can't do that. You can't be an organization organized, I don't know, a collective fighting for human rights and getting sponsored by a company or a donor that is exploiting people. You can't accept a grant from a government that still have slavery and doesn't have, you know, we have countries in Africa that only forbidden slavery in 2007. Don't be shocked when I bring this to discussion. So that ethics is important. Transparency, we said, is important, and financial statements. Financial statement is the la talon d'Achille, the weakness of all of us. The first one we started CFW, it's, oh, you leave it to later. Okay, at the end of the year, the year closes on 31st of December, but up to July, you don't have yet your financial statement done. Have them, because access of a lot of resources will be depending on those. You may not be eligible to access funding, and sometimes even, like an example, if you get resources from UN agencies, even if your proposal or your TA request is approved, then right before they sign with you, they will ask you, I'll send you a list of things, Excel basically, and questions. Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have manual procedures? Do you have this and thing and that? And then they will ask you your financial statement. So if it's not ready, they won't be able to give you the money, although your proposal has been successful. Now, also, the other foundation are the tools that you need to have. When here in relation to resource mobilization, you have to have in place a go, no go decision process, meaning to avoid you go for the wrong resources, to avoid, take time, because we all work under pressure, and the pressure of getting resources pushes us run like everywhere. The go, no go decision, when you put it process, forces you to take that 15 minutes to debate. Is it good for me? And and don't be scared, guys. I'm talking about resources and tools. All are big names, and actually, in reality, all are Excel sheets. So the go, no go decision is an Excel sheet with a list. You can sit with your team and you say, what are the 10 critical questions which the answer should be yes, for us to decide whether or no we pursue an opportunity or connect with a donor or not. It's the go, no go decision. You have to have a big plan. It's the same Excel sheet to organize how and who's doing what, dashboard, KPIs, and mapping tools. It's how to map, and I will show you, I will zip the energizer. So the sustainability is a seed. It's something you build in every day's activity. How does it start? You do it through some positioning. So you have to be visible to your donor. It's not only about you writing proposals. You know that some donors or financier or investor, they don't work with call for application. Some of them, they just do hunting or they just observe. You have to put yourself visible. So you position yourself in your ecosystem. You use smart things. Most of the people tell me, okay, yeah, but I don't have money to do PR, to visit, to invite. I said, and here comes the putting the seed. The resources of today, you should partly use them to prepare for the resource for tomorrow. Meaning that the grant of today, part of it, you have to invest it to prepare to raise the grant of tomorrow. A single example. When you have a grant, and you have done, I don't know, a mapping, a work with the community, at the end of the grant, most of you don't think of adding one simple, easy activity, which is what we call it a restitution. A restitution is a very short workshop of 2-3 hours where you're going to present the learning, the processes from what you do. And that event, you will target not only your peers in the community, you will target your current donor and potential donor, the one you want to have on the next round, the one you want to take over your existing supporter. They will come, because think about a donor, like a donor. They are over solicited by everyone and everything. Give me money, give me money. You don't. You offer them something they are all looking for. Sharing knowledge. They will be very keen to be there and to know you. And then you will be put on the map with the face and not just one project among 15 others. Then the visibility, and that's part of your visibility. Strategic partnership. Work with people that have access to resources, and we're talking about all type of resources. So people who have TA have knowledge to share with you. And last and not least is income generating activities. You have to look, what are the competencies, the knowledge I have that could generate income beyond the standard dîner gala, a spectacle, a show. No, guys, I take a very simple example. Theater people, the core competence of performing art in general, not only theater, is the public speaking, right? It's one of the things that you spend years learning at. And I don't think there are people that would master, you are the master of public speaking. But then why the people who are making the most of it are coaches, trainers that just had 1 month or 2 months of certification training, and they are training big bosses and big CEOs and big companies because they need how to convince and pitch big money and big project. They are training political leaders how to engage with the community, and they're making a hell of a lot of money out of it. So why don't you offer that kind of thing? I'm not telling you to become a mercenaire, but it's up to you to put what type of sector you target, and you can say stay relevant to your ethics and your positioning. So, but that's just an example. So you have to think of resources. The foundation for that is identification and research. So map, before you start developing and doing anything, please take time to map who's doing what, who's funding what, who's supporting what, who's resourcing what within your ecosystem. The tools are easy. I'll show you some of the tools there later. Then analyze, strategic, position, told you to avoid to be in the mission impossible situation. From the start, don't wait when the money is over and then you start, where are we going to knock next to have resources? That's wrong. Oh, sorry. And then the positioning, again, activities, events, and innovation, diversification is really important. Now I want to take you to close. I just need 3 more 5 minutes, that's all. Access to information is one of the major barriers to knowing access to resources within the continent. And that's why one of the pillar activity of CFW is to map, sort, and identify the opportunities that are relevant to us being based in the MENA and African continent. There are other platforms that provide also some complementary information. You have On the Move, I think many of you know. On the Move focus on the mobility opportunities only. Race Arcades focuses on residency. But CFW, we map all this. It's one-stop place where you get any given time. You go to CFW website, you will find not less than 200 funding opportunity available. I can show you. This is today's website. You see there are 18 pages here. There are 10 opportunity per page. There are 180 opportunity open now. You just click. The website is in French and English, and you can have access, and we provide directly the link to the donor. But what's coming very soon, in few months, it's not this. The opportunities, this is how we contribute to sustainability as an actor within the continent. The opportunities here, what we list, you will be reactive, meaning there is a call, you react to it. Your sustainability, it's, as I told you, remember the graph? It's about to plan for it, to strategize. And you can't do it if your visibility is only about 1 month or about a call and not what the donor or what that resource provider is interested in. And this what we do through our resources database. This will be soon open. It's by subscription. And look here, guys, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 10 filter criteria. So you will win time. You will filter by eligibility if you are in South Africa, in Tunisia, in Mali, in Niger. And then by type of donor, you don't want to work with the institutional donor because they're complicated. You want just a sponsor. You want a foundation. You want a private person. Then you can filter by the type of donor. And also by your legal status eligibility. You don't waste time reading a call and then they figure out that it's only open for NGOs and you are a private sector or quartet and quantet. It's this level of detail in our database. You even sort them by quartet if you are in the music sector. Of course, you can filter by sector, dance, etc. You can also do a general research by just theme, gender, human rights, freedom of expression, and then you get resources, and then type of opportunity. You want a grant, you want a technical assistance, you want a fellowship, you want a mentorship, you want an incubation, they are all there. And then financial model, because when you start, sometimes you don't have the time to bring co-financing. So you will be targeting what we call a fully funded project. Then you can search by that. And then look what you get. When you click on the button search, this is your database. And these are like more than 15 columns where you will have the name of the donor, the opportunity, the link, the contact of the donor, when it's going to open next time and the time after. And the cherry on the top, you can upload your result on an Excel sheet and have it offline. So of course, this is to be open soon. Just to show you how easy it is to do your mapping, it's just an Excel. Just collect your data. You can have information through those kind of websites, but you also look at the people doing the same activity than you. You will see who is supporting them. So thank you so much. I think I took too much time. I hope it was useful. If you have questions, sorry, I know little time. Thank you.
Hi, Ouafa, it's Olainka. How are you?
Hi, thank you. How are you? I'm fine.
Fine, thanks. That was a very nice, good presentation. Thank you so much. I wanted to know if you worked outside of the continent as well. I mean, the sort of opportunities that you provide, are those strictly for the African continent, or projects that work with African projects, or can it be external to the continent?
We actually worked, for example, we focused for now on the MENA and Africa continent because that's our focus. But we have been solicited to work outside of the African continent, but in the past 2 years, we were so focused on our primary target that we didn't want to, you know, disperse our energy, but that's not something excluded. But on my experience as a resource mobilization expert, I've been working in Asia, Africa, in Europe. So I've lived in different Asian, Southeast Asia for 5 years, in Europe for 5 years, African continent, of course, I'm African, for over 25 or 30 years. Yeah, I'm that old.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not excluded. If there is a good project that we really find really interesting, then we'll help, definitely.
Okay, great, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think time is ticking. Thank you so much for your time. You can still reach us anytime, culturalfundingwatch.com. I'll write it here. And you're welcome to ask questions. And also on the culturalfundingwatch.com, you can send us your calls, and we are happy to publish them for free. Just tag us on Facebook, or mention in the announcement you put, and my team will take over from there and publish it on the website.